Yo, EJ, this beast got me thinking I need to come visit New York, right? Alright, so let's get into the kitchen sink. This is, a little bit of everything. It's going to show us components. We're going to, see how to use them, how to debug them, how to build them. The kitchen sink, this example has a bunch of things that are linked together. So you select, here, it changes the title and the value, and you see that the color change. You can select it all kinds of ways. I don't know if this works. Yeah, so we'll go over that, how this component works. There's also some SVG here, of course, one of our favorite things, coming from D3. And change the color, of course. Now, so we're going to go over this. I also want to show the leaderboard, which is a lot like the chat app that we played with before, but it's got a little bit of data manipulation, lists, and then finally I'll show this table editor, so we can interactively make a table, and rearrange the rows, rearrange the columns, and of course all of this is synced up in real time. Can't see it. Of course. So let's start with the home page. We'll open up the code that we downloaded from Derby examples last time, and open up the sync directory. So I've already got the source and the views directory open. There's also styles. There's just really one style sheet for these, because there's not much styling going on, as you can see. But this one's really about building components with HTML and some interaction with JavaScript, or CoffeeScript in this case. Alright, so let's not dwell too much on the index.coffee. This one again uses Derby starter. It loads this index up. This requires each of the pages. It does some fancy stuff to add this header up here that lets us click between them without needing to wire up each of these pages. So let's start with home. We're going to get the app. We're going to get the route. I think this is already defined here, app.pages is set up. So this is kind of a mapping for, this is kind of how it does table editor, leaderboard, nicely formatted title and the URL. And so whenever you click on one of these, that's the route it's going to load. So in home, when we go to slat, or with just nothing here, that's the root. So what is this doing, right? So it's going to set up some references to some values. Let's look here. Do I have a model? Not, again, don't have a model. So let's do app.proto.create. And we'll say model. Should restart the thing. Alright, so now we have the model. Let's see what's inside. There's a home collection. So, right. This is, you can have a variable that will be home.titlecolor. So if I do, title color equals model.at home.titlecolor, and I do titlecolor.get, it gives me the value there. If I do titlecolor.set, it should override it with, let's say, coral. And that, I'm interacting directly with this because this is all changing the value at the home page. Of course, we have our colors that we see here, the title color value here. We get it again. Coral. We can do model model.get home. We should see colors ellipse. So model@ellipse. So in the code here, like we're referencing ellipse and we're doing set null. It means if it's not already set to some value, give it a value. But we've changed it so the ellipse has a value already. We're setting, the initial color list here, but we've, overridden it when I typed in here. I think this was black. Yeah. So now if we get this again, the colors, the first one should be black. Same name. Alright, so the other really important thing, the cool thing that this lets us do is, that's sort of the main thing. This whole section is a component. So we can see that here. See this comment, home color title, matches this view name, home color title. And over here in home, we have the index, so this is like the main thing. Like this is a collection of random demos right here. There's here view name color title. So color title is this component. So we gave it a view, it's got a namespace home, and then the other cool thing is while we have this comment highlighted, we can do this mark component thing, and this will save you a ton of time. This will show us the values that are available inside the scope of this component. So here we say welcome in title color, right? So how does this have a value for this variable title color? It's in the scope of this, and we'll see, let's leave this open, up here, right. This is the color title component. So you can see here that we're doing a model.ref, which is basically saying a reference. So in the root scope, we have the home collection, right? So when we do here model.get, this is the root scope, like this is at the base page. And so the home collection, there's a session, there's some built-in stuff like $rendered is a Derby built-in thing that shows you like the URL that you're at and like any query parameters, so you can get those inside the template, which is really handy. It's also how we're highlighting this right now, I believe. Yeah, so it renders the page title with the namespace, page title being a function set up somewhere. Anyway, just like in a component here, you can have view functions. You can define unspace or capitalize. These things are used right here. Here's capitalized, so it's capitalizing the name when we render it in the title. So the functionality is defined here with the component, and basically it takes in a string, returns some kind of modified string, and then we're rendering that here. So that can be a really useful way to do more complex logic. Just make a function, encapsulate it. Let's see. Let's look a little bit what this component's doing, right? It's looping over the colors. So first of all, it welcomes you to title color. So welcome in title color, deep pink. It's got the unspace function on title color. So like when it has deep pink, I'm presuming that removes the space. Yeah, so here you see the rendered style colors deep pink. And then this @content, so is a special Derby thing to say give me the variable like this, is basically this, right? So inside this component @content, so content is another built-in thing, sorry, where whatever you pass into a view when you call a component, so this is how you actually, like I'm using the color title view, I'm basically calling it here, right? So it's going to render in here. That's why the first thing in the top of the page is this color title, and we're passing it in some content, and so it's rendering that content here by rendering @content. So you can put that anywhere you want. You could put it you know, we could put it twice. Save that, renders twice, right? That's the other nice thing, it watches the HTML templates, so you can say, you know, whatever you want. Oops, install license. So, yeah, so okay, it's got title color, it's rendering the a select, and the select is we're looping each over the colors. So colors is at colors set here. So you can actually do, if you say at something in your code, it becomes available in the template here. It's another way, like we're doing the model ref here, you know, this is another, you know, it's essentially showing that you can do two different things. Oh, excuse me, we are still doing a reference to this variable. So I spoke a little too soon. The colors here is from the ref. At colors will let us reuse the reference to it in a view function like this. So that's the thing we do a lot. We might even do something like at title color equals this, and then access that. But in this case we're not. So let's see. Yeah, that's the other thing, right? When this is selecting something, where is the option selected? Not sure how this is actually triggering. This is the input where it's bound on whenever the value changes, it will call this function. Sorry, this value is the input. Whenever we change something in the input, it will re-render this and set that value. Oh right, I'm overwriting this value which is bound. Yes, the inside of the option is what's bound to. Or is it handled here? So I haven't actually looked at this that much. I'm trying to learn with you. Interesting. Oh, this dot main. So I guess doing a tricky binding thing here. Ah, so that is okay. That's cool. I should probably rename this back to, well, whatever. So this is how this works, right? The checked. These are special Derby things where if you're binding to these usual HTML things, if you bind this here, it's going to change this value to whatever is selected in the list, so or selected in the options. So title, that's why title color, right? This is the value of title color, or this is the value of title color. Changes whenever we select a different input here, a different one of these here, because changing something in one place changes it everywhere where it's bound. Another cool thing, right? We had the SVG ellipse. We just have inputs, a type number, and they're just bound to variables on the ellipse. The ellipse is just part of the page. It's not really its own component, or it doesn't have its own component class where you do app.component. It's this is a view partial SVG ellipse. So basically we can render this, pass it in some data here, so we just bind it to the home.ellipse like we saw here before. And when we change the sliders, it's changing that value. So if we do model.get again, so at home, we'll see, you know, that's a different value than it was before. Alright, so let's take a look real quick at the leaderboard. First thing I like to do, you know, you can look at the view here. This one, do this mark component thing again, get the model. It's just got a list, it looks like, of names and scores with IDs, and we select them, we can change the values, we can add players, remove them. So really this is, you know, looping over a list of players. Then it's saving the reference to each player that we're looping over. This is like a Derby thing we do, as with the hashtag here. And then so we check if the player is selected or not, we give it a class, render the player's score, render the player's name, and let's see what else. If it's selected, you know, we can vote on the, so if we don't have something selected, which I guess, yeah, I unclicked it. It shows these buttons, otherwise it says click the player to select. So it's simple if, you know, logic, there's an increment function. Let's look at the leaderboard coffee. So increment, just it adds to the score. So this is another cool place where you can tweak stuff tweak your parameters in your HTML where, well, okay, I need to change the text here to match. So now I'm changing by 15, right? Yeah, so this is nice because you can set up some functionality here, tweak it in your templates, and yeah, you don't have to think about the code so much once you set it up, right? And this, you know, just to give a little more context, it is doing a query in the page on players. If we just do model.get, we'll see the players collection. Here's each player with the values, and then this has an order by in the query. So we're sorting by score when we do it. We're limiting the query as well, so if you add a bunch, you know, it won't show too many. Then in here, this is yet another way of doing the same thing as we did in the other place. Model.root is access to the root layer model, and like it sounds like, and then at gives us a reference to players. So this is the same thing as doing at players equals model.scope players. But it's, you know, just so you know, sometimes it can be convenient to access the root. We put some collection functions on our root model, like, you know, it would be .player, and then you might encapsulate more functionality like an ORM on the root model, and want to use those functions from within your components. This also shows doing a sort in Racer. So players.sort is going to sort the players list, and it looks like we're limiting it. And here you define the sorting function, and we're referencing that to list. So you notice that this was using the value list, and there's an array. So it's getting back the sorted players and putting it in the components list. Alright, let's move on to the table editor. So here we have a bunch of rows and columns, and let's look at it. It's an actual table. This is useful because, you know, we do a lot of data viz like this, right? We loop over CSVs and stuff like that. So again, we look for the index of this thing. Let's close these. So in this view, we have the top row. So we loop over the cells and give a column name, and then it loops over the rows. So yeah, we have a table tr. This is the top row, right? And then each of these rows is one of these. They have class row, and rendered out a bunch of values in the TD. Right, one for each of the columns. Oh, right, so this is table 0, so the first row is just the row in here. So, yeah, the delete button at the end here. Alright. And there's a footer to delete there. And so when you click on one of these, right, you do on click. This is how you can kind of go from mouse events, or you can also define your own events, which we'll get to in another video. So when you click one of these buttons, it calls this delete column or delete row depending on which button you click on, or add row, add column. Those, of course, are all defined in the component for the table editor. So you have add row, add column, delete row, delete column, and all the functionality for manipulating the data is done in here, but we got to lay it all out in the template, right? So here it's just very simple, subscribing to a single object in the sync.table, and so we should see that this is I'm going to do model.get again, the table, sync table, and that looks like this with the cells. Loop over the cells, get the objects, text. Alright, so that's, the kitchen sink. So there we go, and hope you enjoy. Play around with these other ones. They show, some other things. Oh, I forgot this components. So I guess you can use a whole sortable table. Oh yeah. Let's see, when do we use this sortable table? Here we go, this view. I guess this is a way to pass in the functionality. The sortable table is a component, it doesn't have any view stuff. It just defines a bunch of logic for how, like the behavior. It's basically like a D3 drag or force layout or something, right? Like you have, here's a drag start, so it's doing all kinds of logic to figure out, what it should do, how it should place these. So you can kind of encapsulate stuff like that in a file, load it as a component here, and it will basically make all those available as view functions, but then we use those view functions here, sortable.onRowDown, right? And like we also pass in some of our functions to that component, so it can call the things, the logic that we define up here, but we can reuse this behavior. Anyway, alright, so yeah, play with these, play with the other ones. We'll get into the charts in a second. Alright, hope you enjoy.